You know that feeling, right? That little squeeze of anxiety when you walk into a room full of people.
Oh, yeah.
That voice that kind of whispers, maybe just hang back. Or don't say anything, you'll sound silly.
Definitely. It's so easy to just think, well, that's just me. I'm shy.
Exactly. Like it's this fixed thing, something you were, born with, that some people are just naturally outgoing and others, well, aren't.
Right.
But what if? What if that whole idea is wrong? What if being shy isn't a life sentence, but more like a habit? We got this really fascinating pile of source material from you, our listeners, digging right into shyness, emotional intelligence, social skills, the whole package.
A really rich set of insights.
So our mission today for this deep dive is to unpack all of that. Let's pull out the key ideas, see how they challenge those old beliefs, and find some actual practical ways to maybe make a change.
And looking through it, what really jumps out right from the start is that shift in perspective. It stops framing shyness or social awkwardness as these permanent personality traits.
Yeah.
Instead, it talks about them as skills, or maybe more accurately, as learned habits, patterns we fall into.
Okay, habits.
Yeah, and one of the sources, Jordan Bort, puts it really well. He basically says, shyness isn't this core part of who you are, it's a learned behavior. And the real limiter, it's often the story you keep telling yourself about what you can and can't do socially.
Internal script.
Exactly. And the exciting part, the really hopeful part in these sources is the argument that you can actually rewrite that script. You can change the habit.
Okay, let's dig into that. Shyness as a habit. The sources really hammer this point home, don't they? It's not innate.
Not at all. It's presented as this pattern of conditioned responses. The hesitation, the overthink, everything you might say, that physical discomfort.
Yeah, the stomach drop.
Right. And it feels so automatic, so real, just because it's been practiced, repeated over and over until it's like this well-worn path in your brain.
So how does that path get worn so deep? What reinforces it?
Well, according to the material, the big reinforcer is avoidance. It sounds kind of obvious, but think about it.
Okay.
You feel that discomfort, that anxiety rising, and you decide, nope, not talking, or I'll just stand over here. And for a split second, your brain goes, safe.
Right. Temporary relief.
Exactly. But that relief strengthens the habit. You're basically teaching your brain avoidance safety. So you train yourself into being shy.
Wow. So avoidance makes it worse.
It really does. But the flip side, and this is key in the sources, is that taking even small steps into the discomfort, like consciously choosing to engage even a little bit, that starts carving a new path.
Like changing any other habit.
Precisely, like, deciding to stop biting your nails or taking a different route to work. It feels weird at first because the old habit is automatic. You have to consciously choose the new action, practice it, for it to start feeling normal.
Okay, this is huge because it leads to something the sources really emphasize. Confidence isn't the starting point.
Absolutely not. It's not something you just magically have or wait around for.
Yeah. You don't wait to feel confident before you act.
No. The material argues that's the biggest mistake. Confidence, the real lasting kind, is presented as a skill you actively build.
How?
Through action, through repetition, through doing the thing before you feel ready. Confidence is the result of stepping out there, not the permission slip to do it.
So how do you start, if you're stuck in that avoidance habit, how do you break the cycle and start building that confidence skill?
Well, the sources suggest starting with just noticing, awareness. When does that shy habit kick in strongest for you? Is it big groups, one-on-one, meeting new people?
Just identifying the triggers?
Yeah, knowing the pattern is step one. Then step two is taking deliberate, often really small actions that go against the grain of that old habit.
Like what kind of actions?
Oh, tiny things. The material gives examples like holding eye contact for just 1 second longer than usual, or saying a simple hello to someone in the hallway.
Even if it feels awkward.
Especially if it feels awkward. Or asking one question in a meeting, even if your voice shakes a bit. It's like building a muscle, the sources say. The first few times feel hard, uncomfortable maybe.
But consistency builds strength.
Exactly. Each time you push through that discomfort, even a tiny bit, you're strengthening the muscle of engaging, of connecting. The awkwardness fades with practice.
And what about the internal side? That voice in your head?
Yeah, that's critical too. The sources talk a lot about changing that internal narrative. If you're constantly telling yourself, I'm just awkward, I never know what to say, people probably think I'm weird.
You're just reinforcing the shyness.
Totally. So the material suggests consciously rewriting that script. Actively telling yourself things like, I'm learning, I'm capable of connecting. This interaction is a chance to practice, not a final exam.
Focusing on progress, not perfection.
Yes. And realizing that discomfort isn't failure. It's just a sign that the skill isn't fully trained yet. The goal isn't necessarily to be the loudest person in the room, but to feel, comfortable in your own skin, to trust yourself, to show up.
Okay, so shyness is a habit we tackle with action and changing our story. What tools help make that work? The sources bring up emotional intelligence, EQ, quite a bit, calling it a sort of secret weapon.
Yeah, it really is positioned that way. And it's defined simply as understanding your own emotions and, crucially, understanding the emotions of others too.
And the argument is, this is maybe even more important than just being book smart. For life, for relationships.
That's the strong case the material makes, yeah. Because EQ changes how you deal with everything, basically. Instead of just reacting when you feel, say, angry or anxious.
You just lash out or shut down.
EQ gives you that ability to pause, to actually check in, okay, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? And then choose how to respond wisely, rather than just being pulled along by the emotion.
And recognizing that feelings come from somewhere. Past experiences, maybe.
Definitely. The sources mention that our emotional habits are often learned responses from the past. Just becoming aware of those patterns. Oh, I always get defensive when X happens. That self-awareness is the absolute first step towards choosing a different response.
So, the sources break EQ down. What are the key parts? You mentioned self-awareness.
Yeah, that's knowing what you're feeling and why. Really tuning in, like recognizing, okay, I'm feeling irritated right now because I feel misunderstood, not because this person is actually attacking me. Without that, you can't manage it.
Then there's self-regulation, controlling the reaction.
Exactly. It's about managing how those feelings translate into action. The sources say emotions are just signals, right? They're not orders.
So you feel angry, but you don't have to yell.
Precisely. Or you feel anxious, but you can still choose to take that small step. It's noticing the feeling, okay, anxiety's here, and then deciding, I'll take a breath, and then I'll speak. It's directing that emotional energy.
Empathy comes up a lot too, seeing things from their side.
Foundational, according to these sources. If you can even try to understand why someone else might be acting or feeling a certain way, even if you disagree.
It changes the whole dynamic.
Completely. It builds connection, fosters understanding, makes communication way more effective.
And related to that, social awareness.
Yeah.
Like reading the room.
Yeah, picking up on the vibe, noticing body language, tone of voice. Someone says, I'm fine, but they're slumped over and sound flat.
You know something's up.
Right. Being attuned to those cues helps you navigate situations better, respond more appropriately, show you actually care.
What else? Communicating emotions effectively is mentioned.
That's about being able to say what you feel clearly, calmly, appropriately. Thinking about your tone, the timing. It prevents so many misunderstandings.
Handling criticism pops up too. That's a tough one.
Definitely a test of EQ. The sources suggest trying to see it as potential information, even if it stings. Separating the feedback from your sense of self-worth.
And conflict resolution, staying calm, trying to understand.
Yeah, disagreements happen. EQ helps determine if they blow up or become chances to find common ground. Staying centered, really listening.
Motivation is linked too. Pushing through when you don't feel like it.
Yes, that discipline, that resilience to stick with something even when it's hard or frustrating. The sources connect that to emotional maturity, part of EQ.
And finally, stress management. Having tools to cope.
Things like deep breathing, reframing how you see stressful events, focusing on what you actually can control. These are all presented as EQ skills that build resilience. And the big picture here, the source of stress, isn't about becoming some kind of unfeeling robot. It's a lifelong practice. Like any skill, you get better with conscious effort, noticing, pausing, practicing empathy, trying to communicate better. And the payoff, it impacts basically everything. It's truly transformative.
Okay, so we have shyness as a habit, EQ as the toolkit. But what about those really common internal struggles, like overthinking every single social interaction? The sources tackle that head on.
They do.
Yeah.
And they trace it back mostly to that fear of being judged. But here's the reality check the material offers. That fear, it's often way overblown.
Like people aren't analyzing your every word.
Pretty much. Most people are way more wrapped up in their own heads and insecurities than they are in scrutinizing you. Just knowing that can take some pressure off.
But how do you stop the spiral when it starts?
The sources give actual strategies. A big one is consciously shifting your focus outwards. Get out of your head and into the present moment. Really listen to the other person. Ask them questions.
Make it about them, not you.
Exactly. The material suggests that focusing on making the other person feel comfortable is one of the best ways to ease your own anxiety. Also, reframing helps see it as a chance to connect, not a performance review. Practice in low-pressure settings first.
And if you're already spiraling,
Pause. Take a deep breath. That simple physical interruption can break the thought loop. Remind yourself the worries are probably temporary and maybe not even true. Accept that a little discomfort is okay. It's part of learning.
What about staying cool under pressure? That feeling when your heart pounds and your mind just goes poof.
Yeah, we've all been there. The sources acknowledge it's totally normal. But the key message is you can learn to manage your response.
So you're still in control even when you feel stressed.
You're in control of your reaction, yes. Deep breathing is, again, fundamental. It physically calms your nervous system. Then reframing. See the pressure, not as a terrifying threat, but maybe as focused energy you can use.
Like a challenge instead of a test.
Exactly, or an opportunity. Visualize handling it well. Try to avoid those what-if disaster scenarios and just focus on the task right in front of you. Trust that the practice you've done will kick in. And sometimes a little pressure is actually motivating. Mindfulness helps too, just noticing the feeling without getting swept away. And basic self-care builds that underlying resilience. Focus on what you can control.
Okay. And what about when other people seem to be deliberately trying to, push your buttons? How do you stop them from rattling you?
Yeah. The sources emphasize this isn't about suppressing your feelings, but about choosing your response instead of just reacting automatically to whatever they throw at you.
So how do you do that?
First step, create space. Even just a tiny pause between their action and your reaction gives you a chance to choose. Awareness is key. Notice your physical signs of getting triggered.
Like clenching your jaw, feeling hot.
Right. Use your breath again to reset. Remind yourself their behavior is about them, their issues, not necessarily a true reflection on you. Try to develop a bit of emotional detachment. Observe what's happening without absorbing all the negativity yourself.
Reframe it.
Yeah, maybe they're having a terrible day. Maybe they didn't mean it the way it sounded. Find a balance between acknowledging your feeling, okay, that comment annoyed me, and controlling your action, but I'm not going to bite back.
Yeah.
And self-compassion is crucial. If you slip up and react poorly, don't beat yourself up, just learn from it. The power lies in knowing you choose how you respond.
All right, we've worked on the inside stuff, the shyness habit, EQ, managing thoughts and feelings. Now, how do we, talk to people? Connect outwards. The sources get practical here, starting with just initiating a conversation, which can feel really daunting.
Super daunting for many people, but again, the sources reassure us it's a skill you can absolutely develop. And the first piece of advice is embrace the awkwardness.
Just accept it might be a bit clunky at first.
Totally. Don't put pressure on yourself to have the perfect, witty opening line.
Yeah.
Start simple. A greeting, a comment about the weather, the event, whatever. It's just an entry point.
Not a performance.
Exactly. Shift your goal from, I need to impress this person, to, I'd like to connect with this person. And a really powerful tool the sources highlight is asking open-ended questions.
Questions that invite more than a yes or no.
Right. What brings you here? How did you get interested in that? Things that encourage them to share a bit.
Which ties right into active listening, which you mentioned with EQ, but it seems core here too.
Absolutely critical for actual connection. It means really tuning in, not just waiting for your turn to speak. Showing you're engaged, nodding, brief, maybe reflecting back what they said.
Asking follow-up questions.
Yes, that shows you're actually interested in their experience. The sources also mention your own body language. Keep it open, relaxed, approachable. Be aware of the situation, of course, and keep the focus mostly on them, especially at first. Simple kindness goes a long way, a smile, a genuine compliment, and be patient with yourself. It doesn't have to be perfect. Silence is okay sometimes.
The daughters even talk about being instantly likable. This sounds a bit much, but they say it's not about being fake.
No, not at all. It boils down to authenticity. People connect with realness. Showing genuine interest, that active listening, again, is huge. Giving sincere, specific compliments. Showing empathy, trying to understand their feelings.
Having a positive attitude.
Yeah, positivity is attractive. Using humor appropriately can break the ice. Confidence, that quiet self-assuredness, not arrogance, is appealing. Respecting boundaries is vital. Being consistently kind and respectful builds trust over time. It really comes down to creating a space where the other person feels good, feels seen, feels valued. Focus on making them feel comfortable.
Okay, but how do you go deeper than small talk? How do you have those really meaningful conversations the sources mention?
That takes presence, mostly. Being fully there, not distracted. Listening to truly understand, not just to plan your reply. Using those follow-up questions to explore feelings and experiences. What was that like for you? How did that make you feel?
Showing you care about more than just the facts.
Right. The sources also suggest that a willingness to be a little vulnerable yourself, share your own thoughts or feelings appropriately, helps build trust, but also be mindful of the other person's comfort level. Sometimes just being present and listening is the most important thing. Don't fear pauses. They allow for thought. It's about moving past the surface level, asking thoughtful questions, and building that safe, non-judgmental space where real connection can happen.
And what about reading people? Picking up on unspoken stuff?
The sources make it clear it's not mind reading, it's about careful observation, paying attention to body language, posture, gestures, personal space, eye contact patterns, tone, speed, pitch of voice, facial expressions, even fleeting ones.
And then using your EQ to interpret.
Exactly. Interpreting those cues with empathy, considering the context, remembering people are individuals. Just practice observing. If you notice someone seems tense or withdrawn based on these cues, you can adjust your approach, maybe be gentler, offer space, check in. It makes your interactions much more attuned and effective. And like everything else, you get better with practice.
So let's tie this all together. We've talked about understanding shyness, building EQ, managing our internal world, practicing social skills. How does all this directly help with social anxiety, which so many people experience? The sources seem to say, yeah, the feeling's real, but it doesn't have to rule you.
Exactly. It doesn't define you. It's a response that you can learn to manage. And often, the fears feeling it are way bigger in our heads than in reality.
So how do these skills combat the anxiety?
Well, grounding yourself in the present, that EQ skill, stops those anxious what-if thoughts from spiraling. Reframing your perspective, telling yourself people likely aren't judging you harshly, lowers the stakes. A little preparation can reduce uncertainty. Using open, confident body language can actually make you feel more confident.
And the exposure part, doing the thing.
Crucial. Stepping into social situations, even if it's clumsy at first, builds resilience. Every time you manage it, even imperfectly, your brain learns, okay, I survived, I can do this. Small steps build momentum. And self-compassion is key. If you have an awkward moment, don't let it send you back into hiding. Learn from it, be kind to yourself, and try again. The sources really emphasize that you take back control by facing the anxiety armed with these skills. It's about managing it, not necessarily eliminating it forever.
Okay, let's wrap this up. We've journeyed from seeing shyness as this fixed thing
Yeah, like a label.
to understanding it and things like overthinking or getting overwhelmed as habits and skills we can actually work on. The big message from these sources seems to be confidence, social ease. These aren't gifts. They're built intentionally.
One small action, one conscious thought at a time, through practicing that emotional intelligence, using those social skills.
It's built through practice.
And what I find really powerful in the material is how practical it all is. These aren't just abstract ideas. They're strategies you can literally start using today. Your next conversation, your next meeting.
It's not about pretending to be someone else.
Not at all. It's about unlocking the version of yourself who feels more comfortable, more capable of connecting. It's about choosing to practice new habits that feel more like the person you want to be. And that ability the sources highlight to make others feel genuinely heard, valued, important, just through your presence and attention. That's not only a great outcome, it actually makes interactions go better.
So the takeaway from this deep dive seems pretty clear. Shyness, a habit you can change. Confidence, a skill you build. EQ, your essential toolkit. Social skills, techniques you practice. And it all starts small, consistently, with being willing to rewrite that old internal story.
And what's really cool when you look at how the sources lay it out is how interconnected it all is. Understanding your own emotions better helps you understand why you feel shy. Practicing empathy makes conversations flow more easily,
Which builds confidence.
which makes it less scary to step out of your comfort zone, which chips away at the shyness habit. It really is this upward spiral, this virtuous cycle where each part reinforces the others.
So what does this all mean for you listening to this? It means that power to change things, to build those connections, to feel more comfortable socially.
Right.
It's not out there somewhere. It's right here, in the practice you decide to put in day by day.
Which leads to a really interesting question to maybe carry with you today. If shyness and social discomfort are largely just habits you've practiced, maybe without even realizing it, what's one small new habit you could start practicing today to begin building the connection and the confidence you really want?